Hi, I'm Fabio Embalo, and this is SEO in 2025.
Fabio, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
I've got a few tips for SEO in 2025. Look, I think in 2025, I think we all need to adjust our SEO strategies and carry on prioritizing user experience. However, we should certainly start leveraging AI-driven content and branding synergy to ensure that there's a specific emphasis in mobile-first indexing as search engines will evolve to deeply understand user intent and content relevance. So user experience and leveraging AI for content and branding synergy.
Okay, well, let's get to user experience just in a moment. Just starting off with maybe leveraging AI. I mean, how do we use AI and machine learning to analyze search trends and really get a feel for what's happening out there?
I mean, it's a good question, right? I feel like with the massive eruption of ChatGPT through OpenAI, the opportunity sort of shifted for everyone, right? At the very start, everyone was sort of scratching their heads on perhaps the possibility of losing their jobs, and like there was a lot of scaremongering tactics happening at the time. But I think right now it's quite established and it's here to stay as well and evolve. One of the things that I was just saying earlier when I was talking about the tips for the year, I was talking about leveraging AI-driven AI for content creation. So I would say using tools like ChatGPT or Jasper to sort of generate topic ideas and refine content for better relevance to search trends. Simply because this will allow you to save time and ensures your content sort of stays aligned with current user intent. I would say that with sort of AI being around and, as I said, being here to stay, clients' sort of priorities have shifted a little bit. Like, let's say that their timelines are a little bit more sort of stiff, and like people are expecting results and expecting ROI a lot more, perhaps a lot sooner than it used to be before. So I think as SEOs, we need to find a way to sort of save time in sort of laborious tasks and tasks that things like AI and machine learning can just help us sort of, like get rid of and just focus on implementing and creating strategies, sort of allowing us to be a little bit more creative with our time rather than doing things that we actually do have the tools now in things like AI and machine learning to sort of take back time,
You touched upon user intent there. How do we ensure that the content that we ask AI to produce matches the exact user intent that we intend?
I mean, like I've always said the same thing, right? Like when it comes to our clients, I think as SEOs, we need to ensure that we first and foremost understand the target audiences that our clients have in mind. I think the best way to use AI overall, anyway, like in general, not just for SEO or in this case for user intent, it's just feeding it as much information as you possibly can, right? Like if you feed the AI information and you're very structured with the sort of request that you have, you get the right results. So to sort of answer your question, I think as long as you understand the target audience for your clients yourself, or even if you're using it for your own business, as long as you understand your own target audience and you're able to sort of explain that to something like a ChatGPT, then all of a sudden, whatever results you get, you'll be able to understand whether the sort of robot is understanding what you want, right? So to sort of answer your question, I would say that is like as long as you yourself understand it, then whatever information you get from tools like ChatGPT should be easy for you to sort of understand and implement whether like the information that you are given from the tool,
Got you. Okay. So we need to understand the user intent ourselves. First of all, we don't just jump on AI and expect it to produce a piece of content without actually understanding our own sequence, standard user journey sequence intimately. So we sit down, we understand that, we build the user journey, then I guess we apply different typical types of content to that, and we explain that to AI and what each stage in the journey tends to be and the intent behind that, and then get it to produce content. Is that kind of process that you undergo?
Yeah, precisely. I think so. For example, I actually do tend to leverage it as much as I possibly can on things that I believe are laborious tasks that I can just sort of do initially using AI. And normally what I tend to do is, for every single one of my clients, I've created like a tone of voice sort of sheet, right? I've also then created, like within that sheet, I have like a specific paragraph where I talk about the targets and sort of competitors that they have in mind and the products or services that they may offer. And within it, I also have different blog examples that I've created, or different descriptions that I've attached to product and category pages. Because I think by doing that, again, this may just be a Fabio thing, right? Like I'm not sure if everyone does it, but like I truly do believe that the more information you give it, the better, right? Like if I just go onto ChatGPT right now and I type in, I don't know, like best ways to answer questions to Majestic 2025, right? Like like the answers that it will give me will be a little bit too broad. However, if I go into it and I say SEO in 2025 with David Blaine, Majestic, and some of the sort of points that I want to discuss, as well as who I am as a person and what I normally discuss, I feel like all of a sudden he understands who I'm speaking to, as well as who I am as a brand, or in this case, as a person, so that then whatever tips you get given will be very, very different from the initial question that I would have asked if I hadn't fed all the information that I was talking about.
Yeah, I've been called a magician in the past, and you're certainly calling me a magician. But I think you need to get a T-shirt printed to say it's a Fabio thing. That'd be So you mentioned a couple of different AI tools that you can use. You touched upon Jasper earlier on. You touched upon ChatGPT. How do you select the optimum tool for the job?
Look, I think it's trial and error will always be a thing, right? Like on websites, we still very much, for example, in our agency, we still very much do A/B tests for different pages and like the sort of content that we create, as well as like the specific places to place the CTAs, etc. Like we trial different things to see what works best for our target audience. With AI tools, it kind of is the same, right? Like I wouldn't, like Jasper, for example, is very, very good at coming up with the right sort of content ideas, like ideation. Like if I feed Jasper the sort of keywords I'm aiming to optimize for, the sort of keywords I'm aiming to create a strategy with, the sort of topics that it comes up with are quite interesting, or interesting enough that it gives me a good foundation to then expand my creative ideas, right? ChatGPT feels a little bit too basic if you don't feed it the right information, right? Like for that specific side of things. I think ChatGPT, for example, speaking to a lot of my developer friends, or even myself when I've been doing a little bit of coding on the side, it doesn't read lines of code as well as I would expect it to, right? Yet, it's only a matter of time. And again, it depends how much information you feed it. Again, I think you trial it and you use a lot of like the sort of plugins that ChatGPT now has as well, or add-ons that it now has to sort of enhance it. And then you sort of understand, or you try to see which one works best for whatever tasks you are aiming.
Any particular plugins that you favor?
There's 2 or 3. I don't know how much of it you want me to expose right now, just
It depends on how much you're comfortable sharing.
I mean, to be fair, there's 3 that I've actually sort of, I have them running in the background. Like especially, I use them especially to help me come up with different ideas for LinkedIn posts every month, because I try not to oversaturate my followers. But I mean, I'm more than happy to send you a list after this, because I do have a list of about 15. I would look for them. I feel like my eyes are going.
Okay, well, so the LinkedIn specific one sounds interesting. So essentially what you're trying to say is try to ensure that the content that you produce is bespoke and appropriate for the medium that it's being published on, and you can use plugins in order to actually make sure that the language is right for that case.
Precisely, right? So for example, like as I was saying, even when I was learning to code, or when I was learning just a little bit of JavaScript in the background, I used something, I think it may be called CodeTutor, I think, and within it, which is actually very, very good. And it's almost like you have an AI tutor within ChatGPT that helps you code or helps you understand code a little bit better, right? So yes, it's just that. It's like there's loads of them. Like, I mean, and I think they've categorized them now. Like, I think they have some for writing, some specifically for productivity, some for research, others for programming. So it's very good the way that they're starting to sort of structure it all, because I do believe that a lot of these plugins or add-ons, I'm not sure how they call them to be fair, will enhance that sort of experience that ChatGPT offers or used to offer at the very start, where it was just a search sort of bar where you typed in whatever query you wanted and then it would give you the specific result. I think with the specific plugins, it's almost like a DLC on a game, right? Like that enhances the experience of the game. So in this case, it just enhances the experience on the bot.
So you touched upon user experience to start off with, and one of the key elements to ensuring that you're delivering the right user experience is you understand the medium that people want to consume. And there's been a more prominent use of visual and voice search recently as well. Can you touch a little bit upon how search is changing because of that and how you think that is impacting SEO?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I was actually generally thinking about that on the weekend. As I think I told you before we jumped on live. I was on a little camping trip, and with one of my friends that was also an SEO, we were talking about how it feels like voice search has sort of disappeared a little bit, right? Like, it feels like about 5 years ago, everyone was talking about it everywhere at all times. It was like the hottest topic, and like people, again, like it happens pretty much every time there's a new toy for us SEOs. People are talking about, the death of SEO just because of voice search instead, right? Like, but then I still very much optimize for voice, for like a lot of my clients who I believe, benefit from it. I still very much implement structured data and long tail keyword phrases that sort of align with natural speech patterns, just because that will then sort of help the content show up in voice search results, right? And the same thing with visual search, right? Like, it's perhaps the most common quote unquote downfall that I see in a lot of the clients that I have right now, where the moment that they come to us, I mean, I guess most SEOs do the same thing. The moment you get a client, you do an audit, as deep an audit as possible to understand what their pain points are. And it's so odd to me that till this day, I mean, it's September 2024, till this day, like the majority of websites that come our way are still not quite optimizing their images, right? Or like understanding how to even have a strategy behind that, right? So ensuring that your images are of high quality and use descriptive file names and have obviously relevant alt text, as well as another thing that a lot of people seem to overlook. I would always suggest that people consider implementing image search schema markup, right? Like both structured data for voice search, schema markup for your images. It's something that we should all be focusing on still very much.
Is that the primary reason why we're optimizing our images to be found in Google image search?
No, like for me, I actually talk about this at Brighton SEO not too long ago, where optimizing your images, in my opinion, should very much be for accessibility reasons, right? Like you and I can easily go onto our website right now and navigate it and understand exactly what sort of images we're looking at. However, if we were someone with visual impairments, for example, using a screen reader, all of a sudden the screen reader wouldn't be able to sort of explain what the image is to the user that may have visual impairments, for example. So I would say the top priority for image optimization, for example, should always be, in my opinion, accessibility reasons, to ensure that your website is sort of welcoming for everyone and it's easy to access for everyone, and no matter the walk of life that they are part of. But hey, it certainly does help for search engines as well, right?
Where does branding fit into the modern world of AI enhanced SEO?
It's a good question, right? Like when you think about it, I mean, right now, I would say there's one agency that, like, I love the way that they've been working on it for about 2 years or so. And in the UK, I mean, I'll happily speak about them because I am a good friend of the founder. and does rise. I really like the way that for a while they've been sort of screaming off their lungs about the sort of merge that's happened between SEO and branding. And at the end of the day, I think everything sort of changed, right? Like with the sort of use of things like your TikToks of the world, and how much Google clearly panics of the lack of engagement that Generation Z and Gen Alpha and stuff, like the lack of engagement they have with Google as a search engine, and they instead use TikTok mainly for all their searches. And how brands as well have now started paying a lot more attention on how they come across on platforms like your TikToks of the world and your Instagrams of the world, sort of creating the buzz on your socials, for example, through the use of your brand, will then almost create a halo effect with your SEO, right? It then has the direct impact from an SEO perspective when looking at things like a growth in direct traffic and branded search terms, for example, and then an enhanced user experience such as sort of the dwell time and lower exit rates from the site, etc. Right? Like, I think when it comes to brand and SEO, and like the sort of SEO as like less so as, I almost look at it as looking at SEO as the bigger picture rather than ignoring branding and ignoring everything else, right? Like I think you need to keep branding and all the other marketing departments, that's what I was looking for, all the other marketing departments as part of your SEO strategy to ensure that brand then gets enhanced through it, you know?
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2025?
I would always say that if you're sort of struggling for time, maybe you should sort of cut down on the manual tasks that automation can handle, like basic reporting or routine sort of technical audits. Tools will sort of continue to get better and better at handling repetitive tasks. So that will then allow you to focus a little bit more on strategy and creativity, and then overall user experience. And I'd say going forward in 2025, it's all about staying ahead by focusing on content that sort of speaks directly to your audience needs, right? Understanding intent better than ever, and leveraging AI to sort of help with things like content optimization, for example, right? Prioritize sort of refining the user journey and measuring what really matters, like things like conversions and engagement, rather than just sort of vanity metrics. So let the automation sort of handle the groundwork, so you can sort of focus more on strategy and growth.
Fabio Embalo is CEO at Viaduct Generation. You can find him over at viaductgen.com. Fabio, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you, David.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.